But let's talk more about the grief that so many of our fellow Americans are facing. David Kessler has written 6 books, including his latest bestseller, Finding Meaning, The Sixth Stage of Grief. Thank you, David, for joining us. You're currently working with people who have lost loved ones to COVID-19. What do you say to them?
I let them speak. Thank you for having me, Jake. The first thing I do is I let them speak. I witness their stories. I hear about their loved ones. Grief is such an isolating experience in our old world. It's excruciating these days for so many.
And it's not just, obviously, the loss of life, because there's also been this horrific economic catastrophe. What do you even begin to say to someone who's lost their home or their job, their social connections, in addition to loved ones? They're suffering as well in a compounded way.
It's such a good point. We often think of grief as only around death and forget it's always the death of something. It's the death of a job. It's a death of your income. It's a death of your home. So it is a true grief that people are feeling, and it's not being seen. I think you know of 3 types of losses we're dealing with now. Obviously, the horrific loss of the 500,000 lives. We're also dealing with the grief of the world that has gone, the jobs, the restaurants, the place we used to gather, the world we all knew just a year ago. And the third is the collateral losses, the mental illness that's unseen, the death by suicides that are increasing, cancer treatments that are being delayed and postponed. There's so many loss these days, as we don't even know that the discomfort we're feeling on a daily basis is grief.
Yeah, not to mention all the children traumatized by the lack of social connection because they're doing education remotely. How do we...
Friends, connections, just the socialization that kids deserve.
Yeah. How do we as Americans process a number like 500,000? How can you even wrap your head around it?
We can't. Our mind tends to go numb, and I really encourage people to work through that tendency. One of the most horrific things in this situation that's never happened before is when someone dies of cancer and we discuss our loved one who dies of cancer. We've never had anyone say, yeah, I don't know if I believe in the whole cancer thing. People have lost so many lives and souls, and then they receive, instead of support and condolence, doubt, dismissal, denial. And this grief is going so unseen. So when someone tells us their loved one has died from COVID or anything else during this time, it's not a moment to respond. It's a moment to listen, to understand, to be curious about that person, to hear and witness their grief.
Would you lead us in a moment of reflection for those whom we've lost and for those struggling to get by and to get through this pandemic?
Absolutely. I wanted to write some words for this unique occasion that's so horrific that we're dealing with. A loved one dying is the hardest experience any of us will have to face. The pain is excruciating. The feeling of devastation unmatched by anything we have ever known. Many of you have experienced a forced separation from your loved ones when they died. I want to remind you, they still died with all of your love. I don't believe when our loved ones die, we stop loving them, and I don't believe they stop loving us. Let us not give death any more power than it has. It has the power to end a physical life, but not our relationships and not our love. Love never dies. Let me take a moment and speak directly with you to those 500,000 souls. Let us take a moment and send them love. And as we go forward in life, to let them know we will never move on from you, but rather forward with you. We will bring you with us in our life and in our future. You remain unforgettable, and we will always honor you. Others may find it hard to comprehend the losses, but we will create a world where your death is not meaningless because your life was so meaningful. We may now feel this is a traumatic wound in our life and in our world, and we hope someday for this to become our cherished wound. We will remember you today and always. You will live forever in our love. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much for your time and for those words. We really appreciate it.